It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Welcome to this Lekker Rugby Pod special edition. It's actually episode 94. I haven't talked to us by ourselves. We talked to everybody else except ourselves. So I was missing this a little bit. I'm glad we could do it. This is going to be like a special, look at the Springbok squad, and we're going to be a bit more in depth than everybody else has been doing. So thanks for this and welcome back, Harry.
Yo, we have so many big name guests that have actually appeared, but also that are coming back, or in some cases, new and fresh. They're going to blow your mind, audience, that we had to remind ourselves that it's still the North-South Derby pod, where we have the Curry Cup coming, good versus evil. What I think is good is the opposite of you, evil, good. And it's good to just chat and work our way through what we think is always a really important issue, which is box.
Well, like I said, I'm glad to have you for myself a bit. When the big men talk, MBA keeps quiet, you know what it's like, so I'm joking. I just want to say, have a look at that Know Your Coach series for us. I've now spoken to everybody. All 8 of those coaches are loaded. I've been loaded up. Last one was Labib Levy talking about the Western Province one. What was interesting for me when I spoke to him, he said, that one game, I knew we were going to take the Bulls. And I thought, geez, I saw the passion, if you know where I'm going. I liked it. You'd love that interview. That guy has a dyed-in-the-wool Western Province man. Lovely. Right.
There's nothing like rivalries in sport. There's nothing like the North-South, the Bulls, Stormers, the old, Western Province, Northern Transvaal, Pretoria, Cape Town rivalry. There's nothing like it. And what's interesting to me, having been part of, your wonderful world of the Bulls, I really see the differences even inside the rivalry of how people play out their rivalry. So that's also very interesting. It's really fun, and it's what makes people want to come and buy a ticket and go to the game.
Well, Harry, I have to say something. The first thing I noticed when you came on screen is the fact that you're wearing your Blue Bulls outfit, the blue cap and everything. And that's traditionally what you wear when we're talking Bulls. So is there something you want to tell me?
It's because we actually practice irony in the Cape.
Oh, is that?
We're always trolling you in some weird, underhanded way.
Well, you'd have to try this.
The oligarchs, as Johan calls us.
You're going to get whooped this weekend, my friend. You're going to get whooped. You can start crying now because it's going to take a long time to recover. Anyway.
We got the little tiny boys on there, the little fresh face. By the way, come on our pod. Devet Murray comes on our pod, and then a couple of weeks later, he's playing for Western Province. I'm telling you, everyone come on this pod. You go places. You might even become the MD, CEO of your company.
On the subject of the Vet Maria, tell the people who else is coming.
You mean around the corner?
Aligned with the Vet Maria. Yeah.
We've got the rugby poet coach. We've got Dobbo, the man, coming along and going to argue with us, sort of a stage debate. He loves us. And, we're going to have beers with the fella, talk about the future. And really, I think interesting about John is that he can really explain how to build to win a trophy, something that the Bulls cannot do. Sorry. And an ERC trophy. And also just the challenges of when you do win, what happens next, So that's interesting. We're also going to have someone, I think, from your neck of the woods, but I won't publicize that too much. But someone who used to be from the Bulls, Johan van Graan, is booked, and lovely guy, interesting guy. I think he's different from the picture of him that we've usually had. So I'm excited about us talking to him as well.
And then, of course, your good friend, analyst Gus. If you want a real in-depth rugby discussion, you just told me a little tale about, how good his actual rugby knowledge is. That blew my mind. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. A couple of other ones as well coming up, which we can't tell you yet because it hasn't been finalized, but I'm looking forward to them all. Thanks, man. Right, let's talk about the Springboks. So Rassie took an extra day to announce his team. Do you think that was a sign of maybe a bit of squabbles, inner turmoil, not sure what to do here?
No, I don't think that the Bok Brain Trust is that worried about the Wallaby series, we'll call it, the 2 games. I think they're also very savvy to news and when things should drop, and they want to clear air, clear space, and monopoly of the news. I think so. Here's what I think about the squad. It's not designed to be the incumbent squad if we were playing a semifinal and a final of a World Cup tomorrow. I don't even think it's really the Eden Park squad. but it is something that gives you a hint about the Eden Park squad and the trifecta that we're talking about this year, MBS. So let's tell our listeners, our viewers about this. I think the guiding principle, the actual theory of this year, is to blood, experiment, expand, but also to win the trifecta. And I'm defining that as Eden Park, Paris, and Dublin. Not even sure that it has to be 2 wins in New Zealand so much as that got to take one scalp, and it has to be the one in Eden Park. So everything's built around that. And so to do that, you don't want to have 1,000 minutes inside, Ibn Etzebeth and Peter Steph du Toit. You want to have other guys play just well enough to beat the Wallabies, to beat the other, end of year tour guys, but you got to, beat Ireland, the French and the Kiwis. So that's why we have to take the squad with a grain of salt. In some positions, it might actually be the depth chart. And in some other positions, it is still trying to find who the third, or even maybe it's a battle between second and third on the depth chart.
I'm going to say something controversial here, and I know I'm going to get shot down for this, but normally the announcement's on the Tuesday, like clockwork. If you don't train on a Monday, you don't play on Saturday, so you don't get announced on Tuesday. So now they're delaying it. But at the same time, an hour later is the big Bulls press conference at Loftus. Do I spell a conspiracy?
Well, we do live in the age of conspiracy. There's always been people conspiring, and there's always been conspiracies, but we live in the age where people believe in every conspiracy, and that every day there's 1,000 conspiracies going on. So I don't know. I'll let you have that one.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I wanted to ask you before we talk about the team. There was a post somewhere, I saw it, about Rassie walking on the pitch at Mbombela with kind of a satisfied smile on his face. Do you think he got what he wanted from those warm-up tests, or warm-up games, call it that, because the Barbarians wasn't a test? Do you think he got what he wanted and maybe disappointed a little bit in a couple of players? What's his general feeling, do you think, after those 4 games?
100%. I think he got exactly what he wanted. And it's just as importantly as seeing people shine and become graded, as they say. I think Eddie Jones coined this phrase, test match animal, to see if someone's a test match animal, because there's someone who can have a wonderful club career, be amazing, a stalwart, fan favorite, the darling of, wherever, but not match up to the decreased space and time and increased physicality and stress of test rugby. So I think, even though Baba's Italy and Georgia doesn't give you the same stress level of Eden Park, it approximates it. So I think even if he was crossing some people off or doing what some coaches do, which is not now, let's see later, I think he got a few, he got information. And I wouldn't overread that, by the way. I wouldn't say Vincent Chuchuka is out of this type of level, therefore. I wouldn't do the therefore too much. I would just say, there's question marks around some people, and probably when I say Rassie is not a monolith. Tony, Rassie, Jared, these guys, Felix, they're looking at people and saying, how much legs do you have? Like, are you a person of concern, Bongi Mbanambi? Do we need to look at that? And so there's people that are in that. I was struck by this gap we have. 70 plus caps are well-proven guys. All you're wondering about is the physical element of their game. So Vili, Sia, probably even Jesse Creel at some point. There's just a collisions that take a toll on you. Bongi, Mostert. But then you have sort of the 40 to 60, also well-proven, but everyone's still in their prime. There's a big hole in the 30, from 30 to 39 caps. You really just have Jasper Wiese. That's weird. Go down to the 20s. You have Kurti Arendse, Marco, Mani, and Andre. And then Tank Tutoy, who's on a contract leave. So that's a hole too. So, I think Rassie and co need to get some of these people in the teens, the Elrichs, the Vilkos, the Moody's, the Fassies, get them into that 30 cap. And then he needs to find who in the 20s gets to the 30s and sort of move that up, because sure as shit, some of the 70 plus cap guys are not going to make it. They're just not, and it's sad. We don't like it. We hate it. We see these guys like Kitsoff, we think like, no, they got a couple more years, and they probably would have. But Father Time is cruel, and our bodies rebel. So I think all of that is in the mix of needing to get people to come through and finding people like Morne Vandenberg. But is he really ahead of Faf, or is it just needing to get more contingency planning, successorship planning in the mix? Because you don't want to rock up into 2027, the beginning of 2027, and you realize, oh, somebody big had an injury. Grant Williams is out and Faf is out. Who am I going to? Ambrose Pierre, but he's had no caps. So you have to pick some people and say, how do I get Ruan Nortia to get to sort of 25, 30 caps?
I wanted to ask you this question. Why do they pick a squad at all? I mean, they're in South Africa. They're training in Joburg. And Rassie made a big thing about the fact that they had two full squads, two full teams that they could practice against each other. Now suddenly they're down to 37. Now they can't do that anymore. And they can literally pick up the phone and get anybody in that squad at any moment. It's not like you have to fly them over to Australia or anything like that. What's the thinking behind narrowing the squad down? Forget about the standby. I'll get to that just now. But they're thinking about this narrowing down.
Yeah, it's a bit of a symbolism. It's a cut, as you say in some sports, making the cut. So you have these cuts that are symbolic. They motivate you. You feel good when you're the guy that made the cut. Then you have to also talk to the people who didn't but are on standby and go, no, you're still in there. Here's what you have to do. My understanding is the on-field practice, that squad level is pretty wide. There's great pictures of the Wallabies who were saying, Pete Samu, I don't know, we can't pick him because he's not in the squad. And then they had pictures of journos and they showed he was in the squad, unbeknownst to anyone, because you can do whatever you want. I mean, you just start training. You say, hey, we're training in Neisner. How about Evan Ruiz and, someone Murat just rock up as well. It's not cut and dried.
Oh, okay. But
it sends a message around IP because there's playbooks that are designed for the Wallabies. And so that's why you might bring in, some of these under 20s guys is you might not have a chance in hell playing, but we want you to see how we talk about lineouts. We want you to get the code. We want you to start learning the language. But I think when it comes time to do announcements, there's PR, there's buzz, it spikes. We have people like us do a show about it. And it creates the debates that sports radio and print journalism really thrive on is, oh, like my guy in. No, your guy's better. My guy's better. That's exactly what we talk about. That's why it even started. But I do think it's a bit artificial. So I think they're in the age of Zoom and just texting a guy and saying, hey, brother, you still in it, Faf? I want you to work on your release. Rock up at this place, go to this guy's farm and work for 2 weeks. We don't even know about it till later. So it's a bit like Andre Pollard in the World Cup, player 34A, but he's hanging out. He's not with the squad. Is he? Is he not? And then he plays all three knockouts. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too wound up.
All right. So the first thing you and I talked about when we saw the squad was, is this an Australia-specific squad as well? You talked about, getting the need for get everyone, Nortje and everybody else up. That's fine. That's one side of it, getting the numbers up. But also taking into account the opposition. Maybe this is not the strongest Springbok side. Maybe they're giving I don't call lesser or weaker guys, but maybe the sort of second choice guys a chance to really shine against what is perceived to be a bit of a weaker opponent. And we'll see tomorrow after, we'll see yesterday, because this is only coming out on Sunday, what the Wallabies could do against the Lions in that second test. Do you think Australia might be better off, for having played the Lions, or are they still pretty much on the back foot here going into this championship?
I belong to the school of thought that battle hardening is always a positive. Yes, you're going to injure some people, but also you're going to come out stronger. Like literally just in life, as in rugby, you're going to be in as many tough contests as possible. So the Wallabies will be battle hardened. Will they actually send their best team, or is there sort of going to be at the end of a Super Rugby and then a Lions tour, maybe not everyone's, maybe James Slipper, 145 caps, doesn't make the trip. That's fair. So we go a year ago, we say, did the Boks field their best against Australia in Australia? No, they didn't even close. It was almost like a BC team. And there were a lot of guys who got their start. Morne Vandenberg got his start in the rain in Perth. And there were a lot of people that didn't really look like they were test match animals, and then they kind of faded. Other people that did. So what would they do in South Africa itself? I don't think Bokland needs to put on their AA team, World Cup final team against Wallabies. That being said, they got to win. So it's like getting a 91 and getting the A. You don't want to have the 98 because it's still an A, but you don't want to have an 89. So they don't want to even make it too close. I think what Rassie and co have done is build a structure. You have a spine of a team. That spine of the team could win by itself. And then you fund it with people like, that's where you put Ethan Hooker in. You put him around, surrounded in a structure that maybe has Pollard, Dialende, Colby. So I'm all sides. I'm cushioned. That's where they dropped in Fassi into a settled back line. Now Fassi's got his chops, he's got his legs. Now he's that guy who can talk to Hooker and say, "Hey, Shark brother, let's do something." So I think there's going to be mixes and matches, but I don't think it's going to be a C team. I don't think it's going to be an A team. It's going to be sort of an A, B, or B, C. The complication on that is the test in Cape Town, you would think would start to form more of the team that's going to go to Eden Park. So I do think the first question you had, this is definitely a Wallaby beating squad that's been assembled, but it's got one eye on the trip that goes not that long, but still a break that goes to New Zealand. I don't think it mirrors. This is not identical. If everyone stays healthy, this will not be the squad that goes to New Zealand. There will be changes. But I think you'll see in that second test, like, for example, the pack. I think they're going to want to put a proper pack on there, get some legs under there. That might be where you see Eben and Lewitt, where you might see Ox and Marks. It might be when you see Sia and Peter Steff hunting together. Those combinations. What is unclear is at number 8, for example, like, is that Jean-Luc? Is that Kobus Wiese? Is that Kwagga Smith? Is it Sia himself? Is it, like, who knows? Is it the standby in the Cape Town test? Is that the standby for Ruiz to come onto home patch, and sort of redemption, come back to the fold? The other position that's not that clear is 15. Like, is he there symbolically? Are we really thinking that he's the guy in 2027? Mapimpi wasn't, so he's gone. Why Willie? So some theories around that would be maybe he's sort of a player coach. Maybe it's one of those things where Dwayne Vermeulen was sort of hybrid for a while, and then gradually now he's a coach. So there's all kinds of
forwards, Billy's the backs.
Yeah. If I had to circle one guy, I would say that they want to really see a bit of is Kobus Wiese, because he's got that sort of versatility of playing 4, 5, 7, 8. Probably not 6, but he can play 4 positions. And depending on how you see him, is he a bully hard enforcer guy? Is he a athletic lock? Is he a big bruising blind side? Or is he the world's biggest number 8? He's looked good. So I think he's a person of interest.
Yeah, so the 8th man for me is the biggest question mark. Evan Roos is clearly sort of the form number 8. Jean-Luc played 1 test, a little bit of it, then he went off with an HIA, then went home for family leave. I think his child was born, and then now suddenly he's the only acknowledged 8th man there. Rassie made it very clear in the press conference that I attended that Sia will not be considered any other position than 6. But that's before Jasper Wiese got banned. And I don't think Kobus Wiese did all that well at 8 in, the more, set piece side of it. He was good at running with the ball and everything else, but he struggled with the ball on the floor, picking it up. He's a tall guy, like you just said. That doesn't make sense to me. And I mentioned to you that little Homer Simpson graphic where Homer Simpson sort of disappears into the hedge there. That's kind of the impression I'm getting about Evan Roos. See, you called it the incredibly disappearing Evan Roos. There's still some bad blood there, do you think, or am I reading too much into it?
Yeah, I want to be very precise with what I say next, because it's the death of nuance, right? So 2 things can be true at the same time that seem opposing. Evan Roos is a great loose forward. A lot of countries would love to find a grandfather grandmother of Evan Ruiz, stick him in there, and he would roll into a lot of squads because he's gain line, and gain line is very important in the modern game. He's also a repeat gain line guy. He accepts running into traffic over and over and over. He's robust. He's arrogant. He's got self-confidence. He's got willpower. Does he sound like Rassie? Yes. We don't like the people that remind us of ourselves sometimes when we're raising kids and we're around them because they drive us crazy. There is no way that Ruiz is named in the standby if he's dead, right? If he's dead for the box, they wouldn't put him on the standby. So the biggest tell you have is that he's in the standby list. That means there's still, it's like a prefect telling me once, Harry, I'm going to make you the principal said, Harry, I'll make you a prefect because I'm here hitting you too much, giving you too many cuts. I'm just going to make you a prefect and then see what happens, you know? And so I think there's still the forming of Ruiz. It's not to Rassie's liking yet. And there's antecedents in the family, and it's complicated. But if he didn't want him anywhere in the atmosphere, he would just leave him out. He wouldn't name him in the standby list. So that's one thing. The second thing is, yes, there's something wrong there. And it's not so much on the pitch behavior, because when you really look at his involvements and see, of course, he's better than Cobus Wiese as a number 8 right now. I mean, it's not even a comparison. Of course, he's bigger, stronger than Kwagga Smith as a starting 8 against the All Blacks. You know, I don't want Kwagga running into, Wallace Satiti. I want Evan Ruiz running into him. But Jean-Luc is a real player who's been picked for a long time, and I think I would look at what Rassie retweets, reposts, and likes, and he loves schematics and spreadsheets that talk about minutes and weight and height. I think he looks at Jean-Luc du Preez and he says, yeah, he looks like a number 8. He plays like a big number 8 at Sale. He hasn't had enough Bok minutes. So I think the Wallabies is a perfect opportunity. He's the type of guy that can run over Wallabies. So is Cobus Wiese, maybe at a big 7. So I think that the team that you load up for the Wallabies doesn't have to be as tricky or top level. It just needs to be brute, blunt, force, trauma, box, and it wins on the pack side. Then you can blood a lot of people in the back that are speed merchants, because the Wallabies lack speed right now. Literally just look at what the Lions did for 45 minutes against the Wallabies in the first test, and that's what the box can put on the field. A brutal pack, sort of the Tom Curry frothing at the mouth, Maro Itoje type lock, Ellis Genge, the angry rhino type guy, just proper brutes, a big blindside like Ty Byrne, who's a lock blindside. You just do that, and you win the game line, and you do it for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, you won the game. I mean, you'll get out ahead and you'll win. I don't think they want to fool around with Wallabies. I think they want to just bury them quick and put it away. So you put a big brutal pack on, and then you have someone running around in the backs, with speed. That's when you have your hot steppers and, Curly Arendse, Edville van der Merwe, going to go around, the Wallabies backs right now. They don't have what I'll call swivel back speed. So, it makes sense to me. I would worry if I was Ruiz more if when they announced the New Zealand traveling squad, if he's not on there, then talk to me. Then we know that's a thing. Because there's also people like Faf de Klerk who aren't in this Wallaby squad. I'm for sure that Faf de Klerk is still ahead of Morne van der Berg if there was a knockout game tomorrow.
Yeah, especially after the game he had against Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't even really count out some of the other guys. Well, for sure, it's a big blow for Needling Fouché that Asenati was picked ahead of him. That's probably a thing. But even that, I still think they're going round and round on some of the third string props and even the hooker. I'm not sure that Marnus is really the third string or not. I think they just want to give him some minutes, put 80 minutes in Marnus against the Wallabies. They don't have great hookers. They don't have a great thieving line out. It's a good test to put him on there and see. But I wouldn't, there's other hookers and running around South Africa that I think are not out of the picture. I wouldn't in any way hang my head. I would say he's got an inside track. They like him a lot, but it's Italy and Georgia, guys. It's not,
No,
All
I agree with that. I'm just saying, I think he might not be the third choice hooker. He might be the second choice hooker because he's better than Bongi at the moment. And then the question is who's next in line? Johan Grobbelaar or Andre Geventer or whatever. I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
there's quite a few of those. But I think Marnus Matter is very much in the picture now. I think we mustn't make that mistake. Something about Jean-Luc du Preez, I want to just go back to him briefly. Do you think the fact that he's now signed for Bordeaux, the number 2 team on the Harry Index, it was number 1 for a long time, European Cup champions, played in the final of the top 14, that Rassie maybe thought maybe they seen something I didn't see, and he was taking another look at him, that sort of gave a new perspective on him?
He's been very unlucky. I mean, just to be honest with everyone and clear, Jean-Luc du Preez has more caps than Ruan Nortje, than Kobus Wiese, than Sasha, than Falele Fassi. I mean, he's had caps. He's got caps. He's just always been really unlucky. And so I think he's giving him, it's almost like fairness. Like, so this is your time. It's the Wallabies coming, possibly limping off the Lions tour. You should be able to run downhill on them. Just show us what it looks like. Maybe make a few offloads, show up, maybe clean some more rocks, get involved, show your dirty hand side. Jean-Luc du Preez, you've got a really good opportunity here. I mean, I've seen players in this exact same situation where they have sort of 15, 16 caps, make a name. And I think that's almost what happened with Jasper Wiese. Jasper Wiese had moments sometimes where there was an opportunity, maybe Dwayne was injured or something, and he came on, he made the most of it. Keep your head down and just work. That's probably what Evan Ruiz hasn't done enough of, is just keep your head down, do the work, shut up, don't say anything, and then go. Or we could have a beer summit. Evan, Rassie, you and me in Cape Town. Let's get it together, man. Let's heal. Let's heal the clans and get it together. Yes, I'll be the mediator.
Oh, there we go. Listen, before we move on to the, we have an embarrassment of reaches and we're a bit lean. Another name that is on the standby list. I mean, I don't feel the same way as you about the standby list. I think the standby list is sort of a consolation prize. It's just, I don't feel so bad. You're still on the standby list. Salman Murat, captain a couple of times, every time actually he's played. And lots of flack, from the press and the media, the public and everybody else about him. And now he's not in the group anymore. Suddenly from sort of Springbok second captain, call it that, to not even in the squad. Is it again an Australia-related thing? Or is there something else to be read into this as well?
No, that's not it, because he would be if on an Australia thing, he would be perfect. This would be where you would drop him in and say, show your physicality against Nick Frost, a frostbite, snowflake boy. Designed for you, run over him. I don't think this is a good one to be left out of if you're Murat. So each position has a different flavor. Like you said, hooker's different because Bongi is fading. So the race is on to be the second guy, to be the understudy, which is a much hotter race than, say, at number 10, where you have three candidates and they are light years ahead of everyone else. In hooker, it's a wide open beyond marks. I think at lock, here's the problem for Salman. The problem is that guys like Ruan Nortje have really stepped up. John Klein is still in the picture. Archie and Mostert are known quantities who always, they give you different kind of things. The worker bee and Archie is this, the box office guy, but they give you that at the highest level. Kobus Wiese is a problem for Salman because Kobus Wiese falls into this versatility index very high, because you can see him at all those positions except for open sider and not worry about it. I mean, if he's off the bench, if you need him, what does Murat give you except one thing? He is a set piece, very skilled set piece, lock that has a 4 on his back. If he plays 5, it's not really true. He doesn't really run a line out at the level that Nortje does. He doesn't hit anything as hard as Wiese does. He doesn't offload like Archie does. He doesn't monster anyone he doesn't have those things, right? So he doesn't have that one thing that stands out. So I think some of the guys put on the standby list, you should read that as you're in probation, you're in trouble, you're on the way out. Other ones, it's a different lesson. It's I'm still not done with you. I still need to give you a few more hidings. Yeah. But I want to motivate you so that when you do come on, you're like when you take the chain off the dog, and they go crazy. So I don't know. I think Salman has had a bad 12 months in terms of impressing?
I want to ask you this question. Versatility, you mentioned it just now. And our friend Jared Wright did a bit of he grouped the players by position. And the interesting thing is where he put some of his players. Kobus Wiese he put under loose forwards. Kane and Moody he put under wings. But then you wonder, if you take Kane and Moody out of the wing picture, for example, there's only 3 wings in the group. There's Kurtley, Arendse, Cheslin Colby, and Edwin van der Merwe, who's now the newbie, the latest swivelback or Lekkerback. Is versatility now a curse or not? Jan-Hendrik Wessels is another good example. Is he now hooker? Is he a prop? Where does he play? Does he play at all? Is it a prerequisite? Is it a liability or is it an asset?
I don't think it's a liability. In some positions, there's still specialism that is really important because of some core skills that have to be done or they're not. I think it generally is an asset. And so Ethan Hooker can play wing. Rassie can play wing. Kane and Moody can play wing. The fact that you can name them more in the center is cool. Analyst Gus, who's coming on our show pretty soon, he does Venn diagrams, which I think are brilliant to show each one. And there's very few people that are just in one position anymore. Like a tight head prop is usually just a tight head prop. But there are positions like 10 where, Sasha can play 12 if you need to. You don't want him there, but if you had to, name a bench and you thought, I want to do something like 7-1, I want to do something. I can do it if I have a guy who can shift over. Willemse can play 12. I think Ethan Hooker is one of those guys they're looking at because when I did my little depth chart, I had him as the third string guy for number 12, 13, and wings because I think he fits all those places. He may not later in his career. I don't think he'll be a wing later. Like Frans Steyn, Damon Delende, they were wings. They were not wings later in their career. So Hooker looks like he's going to still be even thicker by the end. So he looks like a barrel-chested center to me. But yeah, I think in general, Kwagga Smith shows you the way. Kwagga Smith, what is he? I don't know. Marco
he's not an 8.
He's not really even a 6. He's an X forward. He's a forward X, and he just fills the gap and you don't want him starting really. You just want him coming on at 60 minutes, 55 minutes and saying, do everything that we don't have done yet. That guy. So, I think Jan-Hendrik Wessels is a great example of the new breed. But you still need a guy like Vincent Koch. You still need a guy like Wilco Louw. They fit into specialties. I think it's unclear to me what this box squad of coaches wants from loose forwards in 2027. Part of this is we don't know what the rules are going to look like. We don't know how the refs are going to whistle things. And so there's contingency planning. That's why you have such crazily different styles like Chituka, Kwagga, Kobus, Sia. I mean, these are very different kind of players. There's not a like for like for like.
Something interesting that our friend Sean Larkin pointed out to us was somebody said, I think somewhere in the New Zealand podcast, that South Africa is a dominant team because we have 5 times as many dominant tackles in a match as any of the other teams, Lions, Aussies, All Blacks, you name it. And everybody was, sort of criticizing Jerry Flannery to a degree because he was not, the Jacques Nienaber type of defense coach. But that says a lot, doesn't it?
It's what they believe in. The Nienaber and Flannery and Felix Jones type of theology is don't look at percentage of tackles made as anything meaningful because you first have to look at, was I shooting? Was I dividing? Was I building a salient behind enemy lines? If I funnel you into my threshing machine, but I missed, Peter Steph is way up there, in no man's land on purpose, but he's so big and rangy, he cuts off the outside. You funnel in and you run into, Oxenshire and even at the same time, then we like that because that tackle will be dominant. The definition of dominance inside stat bases, I was just talking to Rick from Ultimate Rugby, and he gave me a flavor of what that means, what they look for when they do it. And sometimes they revise it. They'll watch the game again and then, it'll settle down. But, if you get 2 or 3 tackles out of 10 that are dominant, you are killing a team. If it's 1 out of 10, it's okay. But a lot of teams go 1 out of 20. And that means that you're just making tackles. Ooh, it's 100%. So what? You're soaking up a tackle. They're getting gain line. You're tackling going backward. You're tackling going backwards, and then they score. So you got 10 tackles. Oh, you're great. Nah, terrible. The jockey number says, put your name on the guy. Sign your name on him. So dominant tackles means I take you backward. You don't get gain line. I'm able to drop you, clap my hand, show the ref, and then go over, slow the ball, or I'm walking over you with my friends, and it's a counter ruck. So that's tackle turnover. That's not just a tackle. So if anything you have that's 5 times what everyone else has on a stat like that, it's one of the big deals. It's like kick regaining. So sort of the 3 box stats, kick regaining, which is horrible if you kick and get the kick back. The opponent hates that. The dominant tackle, and then obviously the scrum is yielding a lot of penalties. I think it's difficult to compete against a team that's doing that to you. That's what when we say forward power, that's what it really means nowadays. It's not punching anybody. It's not smashing their ribs. It's intelligent, dominant tackles where not only do I tackle you, but I put you where I want you to be for my friends to walk over you or get hands on the ball.
Interesting. Under 20s, the 3 under 20s, Bato Klikani, Hashim Peed, and Jeswell Jooste that have been invited. What can we read into that? And there's a big thing going around at the moment. I think it was called Berger Senior or somebody. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't want to misquote anybody. He said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And a lot of players like Pollard, for example, played for the Springboks when they were a similar age to these guys. What do you think that the thinking is? Rassie's got this squad building, but he's always keeping an eye out for a blinder from somebody somewhere, and just sort of parachute them in. Is there any chance of that happening? Maybe.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I think it usually works best with skill positions, not on the physical, because you're still growing at 20 into your body. It's tough to be a tight head prop, 20 years old. You don't see that very much. I don't think you want your enforcer to be that. So I think of the 3, Hashim Peed is the best bet to actually get on and get Bok minutes in 2025. He is a really big 9, by the way. Strong, smart, the pride of Boerkaap, where you get your best meal of your life. He's just a clever player, and what I like about him is he has presence, and he controls games from 9. And I think he's also a guy who's able to soak up information. So putting him in a squad and being around the guy, even on standby, Faf, what if Faf and Peter sitting around talking? What if he's watching the match in the stands with Faf? I think that's cool. It's like when I watched a match with analyst Gus. I mean, he was calling every play before it happened. I was like, how do you know that? And he was showing me how he would know from the shape. And I go, that's cool. I'll always remember that. So if a guy like Faf or Kobus Reinach, can sit down with him and say, kind of what Dwayne's doing with the forwards now. Here are the tells, when every time this guy touches his shorts, he's about to do a box kick. I don't know. I'm just making up something now. But yeah, I think Hashim is a smart boy, and he'll be able to pick up some good stuff.
Well, imagine Bato Klikani and Peter Steph de Toy. That guy is a human, 10-pin bowling ball, whatever you call it.
I do like it. I'm aware that sometimes what looks like enforcer, bully boy status, the bouncer at the bar, when you put them into the senior, sometimes that doesn't look quite the same, because everybody's big. Yeah.
Like you just said, physical side of it's maybe not that. Yeah. He's too young. You have to still mature into it. I agree with that. And then, of course, Jeswell Jooste, another speed merchant, guy who can sidestep you in the phone booth.
Yeah, but is he wearing a scrum cap? Remind me.
He is. I saw it, yeah.
Yes, so then he's okay. Yeah, so he needs to join the Lekkerback, the brotherhood of the Lekkerbacks, and just explore. I think we've got a lot of that, quite frankly. And there's even people maybe that are 25 years old that can also make you miss a lot. The Sharks have a couple of guys like that. It's a good time. It's tough though to separate yourself, to catch the eye, because there's so many Lekkerback potentials. I watched the under 20s, most of it, and I could not believe guys like Williams, Joost, let's see, Guillermo. I mean, they just make you miss. I mean, they were making people sit down, and they were just confused. And this is against no mugs. This is All Blacks under 20s. The French are stacked. The English team is really good, so it's pleasing. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it's a good crop of players that are both powerful and pacey.
Harry, the Lekker Back is a trademark of the Lekker Rugby Pod. You came up with it. It's now ours. So I think we should also volunteer to do a capping ceremony. So if you become a Lekker Back, we'll hand you your scrum cap. We'll fly you over from America. I think that's a good idea, don't you? Yeah, it's a good idea.
Once a year, we will, on the basis of the body of work of that year, we will confer upon you the Lekker Back trademarked, and it's going to be light blue on one side, and then, of course, the proper white and blue hoops on the other.
White stripes on the other side. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Listen, we'll talk about Australia, but I think we should talk about Australia more after the tests against the Lions, so we have a better idea where they are. I wanted to just talk to you about this, lastly, your overall impressions of the squad now. Should we be reading anything into it? Are we reading too much into it? Are we sort of, in Rassie, we trust too much or too little? Or should, what you're thinking?
I think he's earned our trust, he and his coaching team, that they've made a lot of really good decisions. I don't think we're in danger here of someone slipping through the cracks. I think they're catching the right people. The usage of them, that's tough. It's not an accurate science. That's a bit of an art, and there's injuries that intervene. Some people are just unlucky. Like I said, Jean-Luc has been really unlucky. 2 or 3 years ago, he would have been the guy everyone said was Ruiz. So I actually think it's good. I think they're giving people their opportunities. Marnus, Jean-Luc, Nortia to run a line out and be the line out captain. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's great. A hooker. I think I understand it. I think I see where they're going with this, but we don't really know. A lot of the whole Rassie mystique is we never really know. Like, he has got his own mind, and he does some things that are very strange. In the fullness of time, we look back and go, oh, now I see why. So I'm just looking for hints. But I think some people are overreading it, and they're thinking too much about what used to be, which is there was an incumbency. You only had a few tests. So, if Nas Porter is number 10, then he always has to be number 10, even if they're playing the Jaguars from South America. No, that's not how it is now. They really are trying to build a campaign where they win 15 out of 15, but most importantly, 3 out of 3, and keep the number 1 ranking, and give no one any sort of swagger against the box. Take care of business. But if they end the year with 15 wins out of 15, but all the top guys play too much rugby, Rassie's not happy. He needs to see what a guy like Kubus Visa can do. He wants to see Morane van den Berg, do more than just snipe and kick. He wants to see how he, spins the ball, maybe do some bridge passes. You want to see a guy like Sasha actually have to take a kick that really means something. A kick to win the match. With Mani, you want to see that he isn't just a guy doing highlights, that he also makes everyone else around him look better. So all these things I think are work-ons. Fassi, great on a high ball, but how are you on distributing on a break? Willemse, when you step someone, can you also sometimes just take contact? So I think there's all these work-ons that they can look to.
Yeah, so I was about to ask you, Rassie walking around the Mbombela Stadium, what would Rassie look like walking around the DHL Stadium after the 2 Australian tests? The first 4 you wanted to know this, the second 2 you wanted to know this. What would he be happy with after the second test in terms of what you might have learned that you think? You sort of answered it now, but just give me a bit more detail.
Well, this coaching team is big on creating stress, manufacturing it. They like to simulate it because they know if you have no stress and it's all just a big jolt and a party, and then you walk onto Eden Park, you're not ready. So they want to get ready. This is just prep. So they'll want to, like I was going through some of these things that people do well, but what is your weakness? I think they want to find weaknesses to work on and give them opportunity. Just like if you have a child that's afraid of heights, you need to go up a mountain with him. Like, you've got to conquer your fears. So, I would think with Sasha, Damien, Fassi, Mani, so the guys who have a lot of tricks up their sleeve. You also want to show, can you manage a game boring as well? We know you can do the tricks, but can you put away a team like the Wallabies, which is, still it's a good team. It's not great, but it's still a team that's going to punish you if you mess up. Can you minimize your errors and put people through into gaps? And then I think on the pack level, it's always quite simple. Did you dominate? Did you dominate from, did you get mauled? That maul try we gave up to Italy is
Georgia.
To Georgia is stuck in my mind because it's so weird to watch. What is that? So I think, even
it's a glitch in the matrix, man.
Even in a year when you're winning, there's something you can look at and say, that really should never have happened. That's a disgraceful act, So, I think it's cool.
I think a couple of people took a couple of shots for that one. Yeah, anyway. Thanks, Harry. That's lucky. I appreciate it. We'll talk again sometime this week. A couple of our high-profile guests coming up, like you just said, pretty soon. And then also we'll do more of these normal Lekker Rugby Pods that we used to do. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.